I was so nervous here. This was massive. Like, my voice and Wax Steven's voice is going out to the whole audience. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the very first event I ever casted overseas. Some of you may have seen the documentary from WCG in New York. I'll be doing a different video on that where I actually asked to go on stage and cast the finals. I ended up casting my brother winning. That's not this. This is the one where I went to Singapore. So this is my first time ever being paid anything at all to travel, to go overseas. This was the World Cyber Games 2005. So I didn't qualify for the World Finals. My brother did. So we were actually both at this event. Also, weirdly enough, my dad, who's a journalist, was working in Singapore at the time. So we got to see him as well down there. So that's, I don't know, that was kind of a cool, weird plot twist in my life. So I had been hired to come down and cast this. And I didn't have any real casting experience. You can see here casters, Tasteless, Wax Steven, and Bunny, Kim Fan, who later worked at Blizzard and ran eSports, and now works for Pokimane. So a little bit of history there. This is, and by the way, this quality is going to be bad. So this was Android 3D versus 4U. 3D had other legendary players like Rambo on it. That was a major eSports team at the time. Android is a Russian player. He was, you know, at the time, especially back then, the Russians were very good Terran players. There were a bunch of great Terran Russian players, some Ukrainian as well. And this was another moment where it was a foreigner versus a Korean. We had this period, especially in the early days of StarCraft 1, where, you know, it could have been a moment the foreigners would have toppled the Koreans in StarCraft. By the way, this is set 2, so it was a 1-0 already for 4U. 4U, I feel like a lot of people, even who are pretty big Broodor fans, 4U is a little bit more of a forgettable player. No disrespect to him. I'm going to turn this volume on now as we get into this game. So you'll hear me in the background here. The guy that actually sounds good is not me. That's Wax Steven. He was doing esports commentary for StarCraft and other games way before me. So I was like the rookie. He was helping me get through this broadcast. And, you know, if you looked back at our our GSL VOD review of Fruit Dealer versus Hope Torture, my vocal cords suck. I'm a little bit better at talking back then. I think I've improved a lot now. Here, I'm like kind of out of my element. For the first time ever, got a job casting. I basically went and offered to do some, I'm just going to beat myself for a second and realize this. I offered to do some commentary for WCG New York after my brother eliminated me. They said yes. I went on stage and did it. I basically went and pitched the idea to them. There's Legionnaire, by the way, in the audience. Young Legionnaire. I pitched the idea of going there and casting StarCraft for them in Singapore, and they actually said yes, like a week later. I was totally caught off guard. I thought it was a shot in the dark. Was I nervous? 100%. I think one of my bigger fears was that I would just, they wouldn't want to use me. Like, I would do it briefly and they would go, this is me. So I'm like, even having this guy come up and put a camera on me, and I realized like, oh, they're probably going to put me on camera. Very nervous. Louder. I'm trying not to have both my voice going over at the same time.
A very powerful Zerg player, and lost, and then managed to crush every one of his players after that.
So the Korean casters are much more natural.
Again, Android with a very difficult set of matches.
All the fans in the audience were Korean. A lot of Koreans in Singapore came down to watch this. Also, one thing to note, too, is everybody casted with a hand mic back then. I think I'm one of the only guys that ever insisted on getting a headset, and I stand by that to this day. It's way better to cast with a headset on. I still, to this day, see some Korean casters holding a mic. It's like, why would you hold a stick for hours? Like, you're not at a karaoke place. Put a headset on. You can pick things up. You can write messages. You can take notes on your phone. You could use your hands. So, yeah, I got hired to do this, and I was excited, but I was also really nervous.
And I am a Protoss player, so people are welcome out there to disagree with me. I do think
I don't know if you guys can hear this. I'll go back for a second. Listen how not confident I am.
To be honest with you, in my opinion, and I am a Protoss player, so people are welcome out there to disagree with me. But I do think fast expand when you're far away like this. It is a good option. I don't think going to factory and doing any kind of early push, Joyo rush, or anything like that is a good option.
It's a Joyo rush.
I'm presuming that he's going to fast expand. But Android...
So my voice is really nasally. I didn't know how to project right. I was basically projecting kind of through my sinus and through the top of my mouth. It's a really bad way to talk because, as you guys know, you can blow your vocal cords out. Back then, if I blew my voice out, it didn't really matter because I would just go back to America and I wouldn't be casting for a long time.
He's got a unique style to him. So.
What's the Joyo rush? Does anybody actually remember this? I don't know.
The middle now for Android. The SCV making his way through the middle of the map for you.
So yeah, a lot of Korean fans over here.
Fairly standard Protoss stuff. We've got Pro doing some scouting for you. Gonna not be able to sneak up that ramp. He will try, though. He will, just take a look at the supply.
So this map's actually, I believe this map is called Gaia. This turns out to be a pretty horrible map. It's a 4-player map, and you have 2 positions on the right that are very close and 2 positions on the left that are very close.
And they're speaking in tongues to each other. I don't know what they're saying, but I hope it's manner.
We've got Android.
Joyo is the Marine tank push. Okay.
To start off, he's got a factory and a machine shop going, so I don't think we are going to see that fast expo coming anytime soon. Getting another supply.
There I am. I'm talking over my co-host. Keep it down, Tasteless.
Jumping aside the Protoss base. Going to see if he can find out what's going on and if Forey's got any surprises for him this early in the match.
I am noticing early Dragoon range. High for you.
I'm so nasally and weird.
Really good at shooting down bikes with mines and things of the sort. I have not seen the second factory yet. Excuse me, I have not seen the second factory yet for Android. I'm presuming either a starport or a command center will be thrown up.
Why am I'm saying presuming? Don't you mean like assuming?
So we'll see.
That's one of the tough things when you start casting is you find out there's certain words you're using wrong. You don't know. Nobody ever corrected you.
Early harassment on his opponents. We've got 5 Marines and a bike heading on across the bridge.
So by the way, you can see people just kind of played differently back then. Presume does mean assume, does it? I don't actually know. I sound like a rich guy casting a pleb game. Well, I think I'm a pleb guy casting a pleb game, but yeah, I might sound upper class. So, to be honest with you, I was very excited to maybe have Android win. I really had my fingers crossed. Even back then, the disrespect for, people had in general for foreigners versus Koreans was just so big. And I knew all these people I played with in America and internationally that really wanted to, take, I don't know, make their claim. Why did I like Android so much? I just, he was a foreigner. He was very friendly to me at the event. One of the cool parts about doing this event was I was able to actually meet, like, all the foreign players, all the Korean players, too. It was a little bit harder to get access to the Korean players. So, one of my big takeaways just looking at the builds here, both guys are just one-basing so hard. Fast expanding was not as much of a thing still back then. It wasn't uncommon for, like, Terrence to just go for 2 factories. In this case, it's like Android makes his command center. This is 2005 Boards of Canada. Android makes his command center, like, in his main and goes for siege mode and slowly lifts the command center off and floats it in there. This is so different compared to what we see today where, like, you just gain ground and, yeah, sure, you could float a command center there, but it's technically faster to figure out how to build it over on the low ground. You just have to know how to absolutely not lose the SCV when you do that. Another funny thing is when you watch this, look at how big this audience is, by the way. I was so nervous. Here. This is like, when you're on a stage this big, when I did WCG New York, it was like almost not an audience. It was like the people that were playing and some of their friends were there. This was massive. Like, my voice and Wax Even's voice was going out to the whole audience. I didn't know until maybe an hour before how big the audience was going to be because for the first couple of days at WCG, people didn't really come down. you didn't have a lot of spectators. It was a multi-day event. It actually took longer than a lot of events that you have now. So people would just show up on the final day. Here comes the Reaver drop. Let's see how good 4U's Reaver is. Now, see, he doesn't target the tank. That's what we would have done differently then. And still doesn't target the tank, funnily enough. God, we all sucked back then.
Android mocking his opponent right now, putting up the smiley face on there.
I'm so bad. No.
Let me tell you, when you're pro and you lose that,
You guys hear that? Do I need to go back and play that again? This is nerd, awkward, tasteless, trying to hype the
that
moment.
attack was completely deflected. Android mocking his opponent right now, putting up the smiley face on there. He says, all right. He's lost the shuttle. He's lost the Reaver. And let me tell you, when you're pro and you lose that, you lost a lot of money, too. You're going to be behind.
Definitely. Citadel of Adunia going down now as well for you. 3 gameplays
Put the
for him.
smiley face up there.
He's still got that Expo going, and again, Android with some early scouting, putting down those spider mines, is going to be able to see a lot of the map very early on. It's a nice strategy by Android, and again, Android does have his expansion down now. He's sending off several siege tanks.
So you can see Android
4U
promptly
with
comes out here and
Observer
pushes.
heading
Back
on
then,
down
it was
towards
like really
the
never
first
clear
line.
when you were supposed to
4U
push and when you weren't supposed to push. It just seemed like people were really feeling their way through the dark.
SCV here for Android, going to move through the middle of the map, see some things, and let's see where he's going to go from here.
Yeah, we got to remember, now Android's decided now is the appropriate time for the push. This push is very important that he gets a good position on his opponent. Siege Snake's now setting up. Dragoons firing at them. It looks like 4U might be able to hold this off if he controls his Dragoons correctly, and he did. Android now backing back out, losing everything that he had going for him right now. It's back to square one.
Yeah,
It's back to square one.
Even point of the match.
Yeah, you could see back then it was Terrans didn't really have a handle on, like, how many vultures and just kind of bulk do you need before you can just not respect the Dragoons. So this is 2 base versus 2 base, by the way. Now think of how much more quickly bases are taken if you watch an ASL.
Again, Android has been making a couple very small mistakes. As soon as he makes those mistakes, 4U is jumping all over him. We've got 3 factories down right now for Android.
By the way, Wax Steven does a great job casting here.
One with a machine shop, and he's getting a 4th and a 5th factory as I speak.
Now seeing a pylon thrown up at the far left expansion for 4U.
So one thing with me with broadcasting, I'll just go back a second.
Now seeing a pylon
I
thrown
say
up at the far
a lot.
left expansion for 4U. 4U's probably decided that right now, after beating back Android's attack, it's time to get bigger and stronger. I'm also seeing a shuttle now flying across the map. Presumably there's a Reaver in there. Maybe he wants to do some more Reaver harass. But let me tell you, he better not mess up like he did last time or he might lose this game.
Android, again, he's
I sucked.
several of those spider mines.
I'm so glad they kept hiring me for events. I'm so glad I actually just knew the meta, and I was able to at least add something there.
For a little while, and decided, you know what, I'm going to make sure I'm okay before I attack Android. Android overextended himself last.
So now we got 4U taking a 3rd.
We've got 4U throwing down another Expo and a Forge now, so he's going to get.
Look
some
at where the
upgrades,
gates are placed too. Like some of the gates in the main, some of the gates in the natural. Nowadays, people are better at just kind of chunking everything together.
You can place spider mines in several locations and force 4U to scout.
Back then, I could predict the game for 15 minutes. Well, just because I knew what people were doing back then. That's the only reason why I was getting hired in any of this stuff.
If these Dragoons die, this is going to really hurt. Excellent control by Android, but it looks like 4U still on top. No, tanks, shooting down Dragoons. Dragoons are trapped in between the mines. This is very damaging for 4U right now. We should start cheering for Android, guys.
It's so bad.
You might win this. 4U going to come back down now, bring in some reinforcements.
I just talk over Wax Steven. It's so
bringing
cringe.
over some SCVs and some siege tanks and some bikes. Bringing in more bikes now to take advantage of their speed. For you might be a bit overextended, sending on through the middle of the map. The shuttle here for you.
How does For You not die here? This is insane to me.
Spider Mine's going to be dropped by the bikes. Bike's going to grab the attention of those zealots as the siege tank's pegging away at 2 of the zealots.
Oh,
there
that's how.
Beating back attack by For You.
By him.
Wow, beautiful play by
Koreans back then still covering their faces.
Android for quite a bit longer. Android bringing in more bikes though, trying to get
I called him bikes. That was me. That was one of my my fingerprints on history there. I always called him bikes with my brother, and then people would like get really mad, like, where are the bikes? What is he talking about? They were vulture bikes, right?
By Android right now, it looks like although this has been a close battle.
I did this. There's another tick I had. I always say it looks like. Just say it, Tasteless.
I can't quite tell who's going to win. It looks like Android, or no, excuse me, 40 still might come out on top. It's been back and forth. And I also seen on the mini-map a command center thrown up at the mineral expansion outside of Android's base. It's really important that he gets that up. This has been a head-to-head game. They've both been staying at each other's level. It's been close, Whack.
I called him Whack. It's been close, Whack.
Siege tank here that is refusing to die as we've got 3 SCVs repairing it as best as possible. Here come the Dragoons for 4. You're going to finish that off pretty easily. But that siege tank stood alive for quite a while. We got 4 bikes sneaking through the lines of For You.
Who's my co-caster? This is Whack Steven. They're really putting babies on camera a lot here, by the way.
Get some more offensive locations. We could have a run here on For You's expansion base.
One of the funny things about doing this event when I was hired was it was almost no work. I casted like 1 to 2 best of 3s in a day, and then there were days I didn't have any work. And I got a free trip to Singapore, and I think like $150 or something. And I think people paid for a couple of my meals, but it was like the stage would be rotated between every game, so it wasn't like you had a stage where it was just StarCraft running. There was one stage. And they do Need for Speed in the morning, and then they would do like Counter-Strike in the afternoon, and they do StarCraft after that, and then there'd be like another game after that. So it was a very different, I mean, just such a different format compared to the way it is done now.
Android getting himself into a different position. Oh, getting some self-kills there with the spider mines. That had to hurt a bit. And Android gets an expansion picked off there by For You. I don't really know what he was thinking with that expo. He's kind of building it exactly where.
Look at how few SCVs there are. Notice the command center's not blinking consistently.
He needs to get those expansions up. And, you know, by taking that mineral expansion over there instead of one farther away, it gives him more map
Korean
priority.
definitely knows to have more workers, but even then, he's grown pretty slowly.
That's a good point.
We don't have the in-game clock on here, but what, this is 13 minutes, 50 seconds into the recording. Granted, we had like a minute or two before it started. Protoss would, you know, normally be maxed out by now and probably on 5 bases.
Interesting micro game. He's playing almost like an aggressive micro, but he's
one of the limitations on this map, by the way, if you can just follow me on the mini map, this little area where my mouse is, that's like the only connecting part of land on the map. So it's very hard to stop a push, but Android bungled. Whoops, he bungled his attack early on and kind of keeps hemorrhaging units here and there.
He just was not able to focus fire that well.
You know, it's a very difficult position right now. For You is throwing up cannons at his expansions. And, you know, it's going to be hard for Android to do anything.
Crazy how much the clock changed the game. Yeah.
Ships effectively. I am, however, seeing bikes fly by For You's Dragoons right now. Hopefully going to do some serious damage. I think he's going to try to send them up there, maybe kill off some probes in For You's base, or maybe not. He's planting mines, he's running around.
Working at this event was where I got to meet and work alongside DJ Wheat, who really mentored me and showed me a lot of stuff. I'm really glad they kept recruiting me for this. Because this work that I did here basically got to go into a resume that allowed me to then get hired and go to Korea. I was the only guy that had done anything. Had anything under my belt, basically.
Or are you just going to annihilate most of the spider mines left behind by Android? A couple spider mines going off onto the Dragoons of For You. Going to take a couple hits there as Android trying to mass up some more vultures and siege tanks near one of his expansion bases. Again, Android trying to set up another expo. Let's take a look here at what kind of expos we've got across the map for both of these players. We've got For You with 1, 2.
So here we go. This was the hot thing, by the way, back then, was to basically drop the zealots on top of the tanks. I know this sounds like you probably see these in every game now, but back then it was like, oh, that's really something else. So you fill up one shuttle just with zealots and drop stuff on there.
And one at a close
Clearly that never ended up going away.
As Vultures peg it away at these Dragoons up for you. Is going to lose this battle if he's not careful. Android looking pretty good here. You will lose this fight. Android doing some major damage. Engineering.
I don't know what Foryu's doing right now. That was a very unnecessary attack by him. That's not even an expansion. Very sloppy by Foryu, losing several units.
Just run over Wax Steven. I talk to him so much. I'm such a bad caster. I feel so bad. He's just like finishing a thought, and I'm like, you shouldn't be attacking there.
We've got 2 Stargates being warped in now by the Protoss player for you. We could see some serious units coming out.
He's like, she's like so good at just like very gracefully explaining what's happening, and
we can see.
And I'm just like, I think I see. I presume this should happen.
Other possible expansion locations, getting himself well positioned here as he's trying to finally ensure some defense on that natural expo.
Now remember, it's very important right now that Android gets some kind of map control.
What's funny to me is, yeah, I feel like Foryu should have more of the map. What is this? Eagle carriers here?
At the same time,
I guess 2 Stargate.
very easy counter for that is Protoss is to get carriers, and that's what we're going to see here in a little bit.
G5 in the chat says Foryu was the first guy you saw do the Bulldog-esque strategy. Yeah. That was a crazy thing. I was just talking about that before you came into the chat, G5. That was like a cool thing at the time. It was like, oh, you put Zealots in a shuttle and drop on the tanks? That kind of makes sense. I guess the splash damage hurts them too. By the way, guys, it's 1-0, and it ends at 2-0 or 2-1. They did not have the sense to make a best-of-5 final. So both players would go all the way up to this moment to then have a very short best-of-3. How many? I'm just going to turn this down slightly here. How many matches did you cast at WCG before this one we're watching now? This is the finals, right? So you casted several before this one, but not on the main stage? I probably casted like 4 best-of-3s the whole time I was there. Maybe 6 best-of-3s. It was just not a lot. It was honestly, it was fun because it just wasn't that much work. You could kind of expel all your energy in 1 to 2 casts, and then you were done.
2 bikes of Android. We do have the phase disruptor upgrade.
There's Kim Fan.
And Reaver
Bunny
through the middle
from Blizzard, who I got to work alongside here, and then also when she went over to Blizzard. OGs everywhere.
He has not lost all hope. Android looking pretty strong through the middle of the map right now, setting up a whole lot of siege tanks, vultures, and everything of the like. He's getting himself an armory now, trying to defend against possible carrier attack.
Look at the cannons here, too.
I think he's sensing that carrier attack coming. And
it did seem like back then people never had the right number of buildings. This also happened in StarCraft, too, if you go back. I'm not going to say names, but I remember joking with Dan. We'd watch these games where someone would have like 2 bases and they'd have like 12 gateways in StarCraft 2. We're like, that's not the right number. But even here, this is like barely a 4th base. There's like a, I don't know. It's just kind of funny to see, and you could tell they don't have enough money because not all the buildings are making. So
I'm curious to see what's going to happen as well. Android has been having a little bit of trouble here at the start of the game, but then it looks like he's managed to come back and secure this half of the map. This could be a very long, very dramatic, very awesome game.
We've got Foryu
had a game on Lodom where he had 50 gateways. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I actually thought I remember that game. I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if that was the one. Sometimes my StarCraft memory is not great. Good to have you in here, Rhett, by the way. But yeah, people didn't have the right number of buildings laid out.
Tanks on the move now. Foryu chasing these bikes around. He better be aware that right now,
tasteless.
Getting ready to reset up the tanks. That's probably about to get into siege mode right now. Foryu says, I might need to back off right now. He's got a lot of units.
When I cast this, it just sounds like I'm blinking a lot and peeing myself.
Stronger position for Terran on the map right now, getting closer to those expansions.
The Terran player Android is going to get his siege tanks in some very good positions here.
Get ready, here comes
I think we got
Tasteless.
some carriers going now for you. For you's going to have to hold out against these units of Android until he gets those carriers out. And Android really needs to bring out some
take it
kind
away,
of carrier
Tasteless.
defense, picking up his siege tanks, heading on up, trying to get himself in a better position to drop his tanks into siege mode. Dragoons pegging away at some of the units left
maybe
behind of
not.
Android. The Dragoons of 4 you going to move
I'm
forward.
going to interrupt him. Get ready.
Just a wee bit as Android tries to get himself a missile turret down and detect against any hidden units, and I guess set up some kind of forward carrier defense. Not going to be very much though. 3 carriers now.
These carriers are going to be necessary to save for you right now. But the question is, can Android push fast enough? Can Android push hard enough to do the damage that's going to be needed in this push?
The carriers were so good even back then. When you got a couple of them, people didn't even know how to micro them right, but they were just so. It just made the game so much more complicated for the Terran.
I don't know if that's going to be possible, as now Android caught with his tail between his legs. For you taking advantage of Android
I think it
position.
means caught with his
and
pants
he's going
down.
to flank him, gets 2 siege tanks, gets several vultures down. Spider mines going off as the Zealots doing some damage. Nice attack there by those spider mines. Going to kill off lots of those Dragoons. Siege tanks being reinforced by some spider mines and some vultures of Android. Not going to be enough though versus For you. For you is able to kill that off, and Android
There it
saying,
is.
"Me miss, but you good.
Good game.
Good game. For you is going to be your champion."
All right, I'm going to mute that. I don't know if that's copyrighted music. And I'm playing the YouTube game. So this is a very exciting, I don't know, it was an exciting moment. I got to cast this. I remember when I got to Singapore, I remember kind of looking around, the first 2 days I was there, I was like, gosh, there's a lot of people here. I wonder if, I'm sure most of these people are probably paid to do something here. I wonder if I can be paid to do that. I was a philosophy major, probably going to try to go into a PhD program. Obviously, I didn't pursue that. I dropped out to do this after I got a couple of these and got a job offer. But, yeah, it was very cool. I got to go to Singapore for free. I actually gotten a scholarship to be on the debate team. And the first debate tournament I had to go to, I skipped out on to go to this, which was very awkward. Very, very awkward moment. But I did it. I didn't lose my scholarship either. But then I never got my degree. So cool moment For you and Android. No disrespect to For you. One of the players I kind of forget about with all these old players. There were so many great players back then. I think the ones that stuck with me are the ones that are playing in ASL now. And did Jeff and me go to debate? Yeah, with Jeff and I did. I saw Jeff at a debate tournament before I knew him, so we never actually talked. I thought I recognized him, but I'm like, that can't be the guy I think it is. Very cool. By the way, going to Singapore as an American, a lot of times, as an American growing up, there he is. There's little Tasteless.
How far he's got.
What do you have to say? This is me. I am so uncomfortable right now. I'm like, I remember like they're doing like a cue, like you're going to be on camera, and I'm like, okay, here we go, and they're going to see me. They're all going to see me. They're all going to see me.
It's just really great to see, and
Oh!
I know Android's had a great time thus far.
There it is.
I think the whole StarCraft community is really proud of Android right now for how far he's gotten.
Shut up,
I
Tasteless.
have to say though,
Shut
I was
up,
kinda
Tasteless.
hoping that Android
I
would
think
win this one.
we're all really proud of
I
him.
had my fingers crossed that maybe Android would do this, but
I am, it's a funny thing you see with new casters. I can't not be a fan and just root for somebody. Like I have to I'm just like, well, I wanted a Korean to lose because that would somehow I would get secondhand legitimacy as a player who's not a Korean, and these are the other people I train with.
it's been a great WCG, and it is good to see a Protoss player win WCG this year. It is normally a Terran.
Great job.
No. That's how I close it out. Hold on. That's what I said. It's like I knew one day I was going to be Artos' co-host. Oh, my God. It's insane. Oh, God. We got to get a time machine so I can go back and just beat up my younger self. Hold on. Tasteless, please take it away.
Android would do this, but it's been a great WCG, and it is good to see a Protoss player win WCG this year. It is normally a Terran.
Great job.
What is that? What is that? Who am I looking at too? Look, I looked to the side. Who are you looking at, Tasteless? What? Wait. Look at me. Who am I talking to? What the fuck? Look at this.
CG, and it is good to see a Protoss
Who am
player
I
win
looking
WCG this
at?
year. It is
What
normally a
the
Terran.
fuck?
Great job.
The
You know,
fuck is this? Oh my god, I'm the worst. Oh my god, I wasn't even gonna actually listen to it. That's how it went. Hold on. Oh my god, they hired me. They hired me again. Hold on a second. Hold on, here we go. All right, let's close out the show. Nick, do you want to get Mike? Do you want to get hired again? Here we go.
it was just really great to see. And
Take it away.
I know Android's had a great time thus far.
By the way, look at Wax. He was like such a professional, and I'm just like, I don't know what to say other than like, I want a foreigner to win, and I'm a Protoss player, and I presume I see this or that.
Yeah, I think the whole StarCraft community is really proud of Android right now for how far.
And listen to what he says when I'm done.
I have to say though, I was kind of hoping that Android would win this one.
I kind of had my fingers crossed that maybe Android would do this, but you know, it's been a great WCG, and it is good to see a Protoss player win WCG this year. It is normally a Terran.
Great job.
Oh god.
You know,
Oh god, it's so bad. Okay. Great job. We got to turn off the music. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. I'm like, it's usually a Terran player that wins. I guess it was actually Terran players that won at times before that, but somehow that's like, we've gone back in time, and even back then I knew I was going to be with a biased Terran caster where I had to be the other side. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching that. That was fun. WCG, again, man, if you were not a Korean, this was your bread and butter. This was what you wanted and dreamed to win and compete in. Because not many of us got to go overseas and live in Korea and compete. So thank you so much for watching that. At times embarrassing for me to watch a video of my first international tournament that I casted in Singapore. I got hired to go to WCG Italy the year after that. And then I think maybe the following year, because this is 2005, I moved to Korea in 2008. So yeah, WCG Italy. I think the other one was WCG Seattle, I believe. So I did those three. Then I went to Korea. I'm still here. It's been like 15 years or something like that. Let me know what you think about this kind of content in the comments. Please like and subscribe. That helps this video get out to as many people as is possible. And I don't know what else. My merch shop, tastelessthreads.com. Go there, check that out, and I hope to see you in a future video. Bye-bye.